Hello, in today's video I will be designing my own Dungeons and Dragons character or my own D&D character, whichever you would like to call it. Before we start the video, I want to start by saying I'm sorry for not having a video for last month. I've been kind of busy, but more on that later. Let's get into the video. For these first sketches, I was feeling kind of art blocky, so they're not the best. But these sketches were me trying to figure out what I wanted his face to look like and what I wanted his hair to look like. But real quick, for you who don't know, D&D is a fantasy tabletop role-playing game, which basically you just make your own characters and you all go by like a book that has like a story and do whatever you want. It's quite fun. I've played it a bit with my siblings, but my brother recently got a book for his birthday and we're all doing a lot more of a legit story, because often we wouldn't play with a book, but now we have a book, so we're gonna play a legit story, so that's gonna be cool. So I was designing my own character for it, and I thought you guys would like to watch the process of me designing him. So my character is going to be half human, half bird folk, which actually isn't a race that you can be. You can be bird folk, which is basically just bird people, and you can be a human, but I decided to be half human, half bird folk. But the only reason this is fine is because the person who's in charge, a dungeon master, which is basically the person who mostly controls the story, was fine with it. So and I did half human, half bird folk because bird folk have like beaks, and I kind of wanted to get a design that I liked out of this for me to draw, just because I like drawing characters. If I gain another character to draw that looks cool, that's fun. So for his hair, I did try at first this really basic just boy hair that was just kind of messy looking, and then I tried this like bowl cut hairstyle, which I didn't like, and then I tried this hairstyle that had a side part, but it ended up looking like my character's hair, Logan, which I didn't like that because it just made it look like emo Logan, and I didn't like that. Then I tried this half up, half down hairstyle, which really didn't work at all. Like, it kind of did, but I didn't really like how it was looking. And then I tried again, but I found this reference of like some guy on TikTok, and I liked his hair, so I ended up using that. I found this on Pinterest. For any of you who want to look at the Pinterest page I made for drawing him, I'll have it linked. So I ended up doing like this very layered, like longer hair, because I thought it looked good and worked well for him. One thing about having it being all swishy, since he is bird folk, he's gonna be able to fly. So his hair being all swishy kind of makes me think of like flying and stuff. And also if he's like flying around, his hair might end up being all swishier like this, and it's kind of messy, so it works well. So once I finished his hairstyle and decided what his face was gonna look like, I moved on to his outfit. Before I drew the actual clothing, I drew a simple version of him T-posing, and then I drew the outfit on it. And I also gave him his hair too. I gave him a little really bored looking face. I don't know, it just looks so funny. I kept laughing at it. I also gave him his bird wings, which are going to be black. I kind of based him off of a crow, so he's going to have a lot of black in his design. Or at least his hair and wings are black. He ends up actually not having that much black in his design, but it feels like a lot because his wings are really big and his hair is black too, so two main things are black. And for his outfit originally, I did have him wear like this coat that he had like feathers at the top. Like, this looked cool, but it ended up not feeling like it would work very well, because when I was talking to my brother about it, he felt like his sword is gonna get in the way, because I gave him a sword because I wanted him to just like fight with a sword because I thought that seemed cool. And I also gave him this bag on his like thigh, but I ended up changing the outfit for the reason that it didn't feel like his wings could easily move. It felt like too many things on his torso that would get in the way. And he does have claw hands because he is half bird folk, so he kind of has like hands that look like bird claws in a way, which I think looks kind of cool. They're still very much human-like. They kind of have claws. But for his second outfit, I ended up just having him wear like a white shirt with his sleeves rolled up, and he's wearing like a leather vest corset armor thing on his chest, which here's a little diagram on how his chest plate works. And you can see for this little back reference I drew a bit more on how it looks like when it's on him. And then I also did draw his hands, but these end up changing later. I just dragged in a 3D model for this because I really didn't feel like drawing hands. But I ended up changing how the hands look later, like I already mentioned. In the final picture is when I change them. So basically I just have tons of texture on them because bird hands kind of look like they have like a leathery texture to them. So yeah, that's basically it. I don't have much to say about it. I'll talk about them more later. I also added a pop of orange to this spread just because I wanted to make it look all pretty. It's kind of neat having it be on this really long canvas because it looks kind of neat. So I added on the orange just to make this all look interesting. And here's all the sketches I made for the first concept sketches. And now I'm going to do a few more concept sketches and then we'll move on to the final picture. For this batch of concept sketches, I was making him a mask because I imagine that sometimes he wears a mask when he's flying because it would be cold and like then he has protection for his face too. And then I also got to see what his hair looked like from a side view. I wanted to make his mask kind of look like a bird beak because I feel like it looked kind of cool. I feel like mimicked a bird beak in a way because he has like the bird wings. And he grew up in a town of bird folk. He's kind of the only one who's half human, half bird folk who lives in this town. So yeah, these are just some quick little sketches because I wanted to make that for him. I don't use this in the final picture, but he has a mask whenever I want to use it. And I imagine because he wears this fake beak looking thing that the people in his town call him Fake Beak or like the fellow soldiers because I made him be a soldier. So imagine the other soldiers tease him because he doesn't have a beak and then he wears this mask so they call him Fake Beak. I'll talk about his backstory in a little bit, but I'm gonna talk about these things a bit more. This is a sketch I ended up not really liking that much. This was mostly just me playing out colors and drawing him again. I do some more sketches of designing his colors, but that wasn't very interesting to watch because I pretty much knew what I wanted his colors to be right away. Probably should have tried more options, but I ended up liking the colors I chose anyways, so it worked out fine. For his pose, this is the reference I used. Again, it'll be on that Pinterest page I mentioned earlier. I'm not going to zoom in and have this footage be super long because I don't want to make this video be super duper long. And I'm not zooming in because I do end up getting rid of the face that you see here and going with a different face. There was a lot of fiddling around with this pose in the beginning, so I didn't want to show all the moving around. I didn't want to make you guys dizzy. But overall, it went fine. Like I mentioned earlier, I was feeling kind of art blocky while drawing all this, so I was having kind of a difficult time. But I ended up figuring out, I basically just drew the design you saw earlier, and I also decided to zoom in so that we could get a closer look on his face and stuff. Because he has one leg up, I didn't feel the need to show his other leg because you would get to see what shoe he was wearing. So I just cropped off his other leg and zoomed it in so you just see him and his wings. You see a lot of them, but you just don't see the other leg completely. And I do end up changing some things about his outfit in the line art stage because I realized how weird it looked. And I did have a difficult time with his sleeves. His sleeves were hard. But I'm going to talk about that more in a moment because, so yeah. Okay, something kind of funny I did. Like I mentioned earlier, I ended up getting rid of this face. I was cleaning up his face and I decided I didn't like it and I kept just looking at my original face I drew. So I just copied and pasted it because I really liked this face and I was like, if I'm going to spend all the time to color it and do the line art and all this stuff, I'm going to like the face. So I just copied and pasted it. And I spent a really long time on this face, so I didn't want it to go to waste. So I decided to use it in the final picture. Okay, about his sleeves, I like the left sleeve, the sleeve on our left, but I don't like the sleeve on our right. Like, I don't like how it looks. It just looks weird. Like, it turns out okay, but I don't really like it that much. I like the one on the left way more because I feel like the wrinkles look a lot better. And the right one just doesn't look very nice. I just don't really like it. For his hands, I just sketched them like normal hands and then just changed the fingertips because they're very human-like I mentioned earlier. And for his nails originally, to make them look claw-like, I just did this made them longer and thicker at the bottom, but it just looked kind of weird. Like he just had really weird nails, or I didn't know how to draw fingernails. So I did end up changing the nails or claws, whatever you want to call them. I did end up changing them to this more curved looking one, so they're more claw-like. I feel looks a lot better. I asked for my older sister's opinion, and she also thought my nails looked kind of weird. So we ended up going with these more curved looking nails and not showing the start of the nail and just having it blend in. Because his nails were going to be all black, so you weren't really going to see that anyways. So I feel like they look cooler. I like them. I think they look kind of neat. For his sword, I didn't really design it in my original sketches. I just did a very basic looking sword. So it's not anything that special, but I decided to have him have it unclipped from his belt so that he could hold it. I didn't draw his bag at all because technically this is the side where you would see his bag, but I ended up removing it because I didn't really want to draw it. And he has his sword detached, so I assume he might just have his stuff removed right now. But the line art went fine. The line art was pretty easy. But while I'm doing the line art, I do end up changing how I have his armor going. I end up making it shorter because I didn't like how it was lining up with his belt. And ended up just fixing that problem because it was feeling like a tangent and I didn't like it because they were just lining up weirdly and I just didn't like it at all. So I decided to just make his armor piece a little shorter and just have it be that you see his shirt poking out just a little bit. And his shirt's like tucking into his pants, which I like how this looks more because I feel like it makes more sense. So I'm gonna just tell you his name. His name is Kuro Black, which is kind of funny because Kuro is black in Japanese, so his name is Black Black, and I find it kind of funny. His background is a soldier, and also his class is fighter. So for his backstory, I imagined that his dad left on a mission at some point, and then his mom left to find him, but they both never returned. So he was left in the care of his uncle, who was a soldier. So he ended up being raised by a bunch of soldiers. And now he's like out to try to find his mom and his dad because he wants to know what happened to them. So yeah, that's his little like backstory. The shading went good. I did have to do it a little different than usual because of how many layers are in his hair. I was trying to do just a band of highlight, but I ended up just moving it around a bit more because it wasn't really looking right. I'm going to talk a bit about why I've been busy recently. So I got my cast removed and now I have a boot. So now I've been walking around on it, stuff like that, but with crutches right now. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to ditch my crutches somewhat soon. And because I'm now in my boot, I've been taking physical therapy. It's been a twice a week thing for a bit, but now it's going to go to once a week because he feels like it's not as necessary anymore and that my flexibility has improved a lot. So it's going to become more strength training, getting back to walking, which is exciting. Another thing that made this month a little more busy is that I came down sick with COVID at the beginning of the month, which was kind of annoying because it was like my second time having COVID. Because the first time I got it from camp. And the second time my sister was just sick and then I became sick. And I've also been going to church a lot because for church I'm going to my youth group and then like I'm also going to just for usual services, which I often end up going to like church like 3 times a week, at least recently. So like I go when there's youth group, I go once with my family, and I go once when there's a special thing for teenagers. So a lot of church and been kind of busy with all that, but it's so fun and I love it. And doing school, so all that made it so that I was kind of busy. So sorry about not having a video come out last month, but you have this video, so I hope you like this one. While I was making him, we were going by a beginner's guide because we weren't playing like more fancy ones. We were playing by a beginner's guide of D&D, and it would have it be that we had to put down like personal traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws. And for those, this is basically just like things about them. And I put, I'm always polite and respectful. My city, nation, or people are all that matters. Those who fight beside me are those worth dying for. And then for his flaw, I'd rather eat my armor than admit when I'm wrong. And I decided to go with that because I felt like it fit him character-wise. Because, like I mentioned, his backstory, he grew up with soldiers and with his uncle, and he cares about them a lot, so he would fight with them, and he cares so much about them. He's like, yeah, you guys are worth dying for. And he's polite and respectful because he was a soldier growing up with soldiers. He had to be respectful, polite and respectful because disciplined, and you wouldn't want to like talk back to like the head person. and he cares a lot about his city and people, so I thought that worked. Which one thing I do find funny about his stats, that it ended up his intelligence is 9, which isn't good. So since his intelligence is so low, it minuses 1 for when I roll my dice, so he's stupid. Which I find so funny because he's scary looking and he's strong. His strength is 10, which isn't like incredible, but like his strength is 10. So he's very scary looking and like intimidating looking, but he's really dumb. It's so funny because he's just an edgy thing who's really dumb. And I kind of love it. It makes me love him even more. For his wings, I kept trying to find a shortcut for drawing them. I ended up just doing like kind of a painting thing with them because I was trying to do like line art and stuff, but I really didn't want to do line art for the wings. So I ended up just sketching some wings and then cleaning up that sketch. And this became the wings. Which I like how the wings end up looking. I totally forgot at first though what wings looked like, because at first I wanted to do a whole bunch of small individual feathers, which wasn't looking right at all, but I ended up looking up some references of what wings looked like and I figured it out. I feel like his wings look kind of cool. I do end up adjusting them just a little bit later though, because I felt like they weren't lining up completely right. Yeah, because I just put some shadow beneath them, so like all the layers looked separate. Now I add glow on top to make each feather look a little more separate. Either way, I feel like his wings end up looking kind of cool. One thing for his armor that I decided to do, I decided to add another color of brown so that it wasn't all the same brown, because having it all the same brown looked kind of boring. So I decided to add in another brown. So I thought it looked a lot more interesting. And for his sleeves, it was kind of fun to shade them. I liked shading the left sleeve more because that's just the sleeve I did better on in general. One problem with all the shading I did for this picture is that at first I was very lazy and not remembering at all how to shade, but like towards the end I remembered how to kind of do it. So I just had a whole bunch of layers, so I kept just adding layers on top of layers, trying to add depth to this picture because it was kind of lacking in some areas. It's still not fantastic, but it still looks good. So yeah, just slapping on tons of effects on top of it to try to make this look fancy because my shading was kind of bad. And I also added on more highlights in certain areas to add more contrast. Like I added on this like bluey light to his hair to make it stand out more from his wings. And I also decided to tilt him because I planned to do this the entire time. I just like tilting things. I feel like it looks cool. So I tilted him and cropped the canvas a bit more. And then I started adding on some lighting. So I added on some white, and I also changed his liner color and added on more shadows. I also shaded the metal, which I didn't do that amazing of a job, but like add some slight shading to that. And I was gonna have him just sit in a white void, but I ended up changing this because I asked my brother what he thought of the picture. I was like, do you think I should put a background or should I just have him in a white void? It's like, maybe give him some sort of background. So I ended up making it look like he was in a tree. So I just put some brown underneath him and added some green splotches in the background and added a slight hue of blue behind him, so it looked like there's a sky behind him. And I feel like it looks very cool. I like how it looks. One thing about adding this background, it went from, oh, this seems kind of odd for me to be drawing, because I don't usually draw edgier characters that often. I don't often make finished pictures with more edgy looking characters. And then when I added the background, it seemed very much like, oh yeah, I can see that breaking through this. Because it made it seem like instead of just sitting there being edgy, it was like sitting there being edgy, but also being beautiful. Yeah, so I had a lot of fun with this picture. I also threw on some texture because I thought that looked really cool. He did have dappled lighting because he was underneath a tree, but I ended up getting rid of this because I thought it looked weird. And I used this brush I downloaded earlier of feathers and put that in the background because I thought it looked really cool and filled in the space. And towards the very end, I added some blur on so his wings weren't as focused, so we can focus more on his face because all the background was blurred, but he wasn't completely blurred. So yeah, I like how this picture turned out. I feel like it looks cool. I'm excited to get to be him in my game of D&D, and it's gonna be really fun. I can't wait to start. So yeah, this is him, Kuro Black. I hope you like him. I hope you like the video. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Bye!